First of all, I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son, but here we are. So, as you know, I'm Christine Wells-Wansley. I am Nolan Wells' mom. And Nolan is the kindest soul. He never met a stranger. He loved everybody. He didn't care if you were black, white, purple, green, looked like a marshmallow. Like, he just wanted everyone to be in peace with one another. He loved life, and God gave him this big heart, which always scared us. Me and his dad had conversations with him all the time, not just about the importance of understanding our history as Black people, but also the importance of how you have to move in certain spaces. And it's not us being, feeding into racism or the stereotypes that comes with that. Unfortunately, that is just a matter of fact. There have been many cases, many instances that shows it. It's unfortunately a pattern that he did not like. He did not like that there was so much division, and I think that's why God gave him us. He was really a peacemaker. He wanted, like I said, everyone to be included. He never wanted to leave anyone out. He just, even at a young age, I don't know, he was, how old was he?
18?
No, not 18. When he was a baby, he did little dance. So his father and I were having a moment, and as couples do, and even in that moment, he runs in the room with his diaper on, of course, and he starts dancing because it was like he could feel the tension. He could feel that something wasn't right. So he was just a special kid. Like, he was a special kid, but again, just heart was so big. And we're gonna miss him dearly. But we are grateful, especially to our friend Tashima, who actually was one of the people who helped us that night. She went and picked up his cell phone from where it was, and then provided that to us, because we of course contacted authorities to figure out who to do the report with, whether it was the county or the city, which then turned into DMR, who I contacted immediately from there. And but
can you tell them how you got your cell phone?
So our friend actually, when I called her, Nolan is best friends with her two sons, Jalen and Javon. When I called her, I said, Tashima, have you seen Nolan? He's missing. No one has seen him. No one has talked to him. The boys were actually with her sons. So they opened up their Snapchat, because a lot of the kids do have their locations where they're tracking one another. So one of the boys says, well, it's showing that, I can't exactly remember what his location was showing, but my Life 360 location was showing something completely different. It was actually showing that his phone was like he was on land. And so we ended up, she received the phone from that parent, and then we met up where his car was, which was at a separate location. There were issues obtaining the key, but even so, there's just a lot of...
Tell them about what happened with the key.
So I'm gonna let my husband tell you about that, because he actually went up to the door to get the key, because at that point, I was just not in my right mind. This has just been an awful situation. just terrible.
Elmore Wansley, the father.
Okay, so the situation with the key. When we got to the house, a few of his friends, they were already there. And they were at the door in the house, asking questions. So when I walked up, they were getting, things were getting kind of intense. So I turned to them and told them, I need you guys to calm down. I don't do this to me right now. I need them to kind of trust me so they can give me something. So I was able to calm them down. So the guy, he's in one of the pictures, but he came out of the room, half asleep or whatever, I think Jax or whatever. And I said, look, I'm Nolan's father. I'm here to get his keys so I can get his car. I said, he's like,
His car was in the yard.
his car's parked in the yard. So he was like, I don't know, man. I know it's like my brother. I said, well, if Nolan was like your brother, would you please go in your room and see if you can find my son's keys so I can take his car home? He walks off, 2 or 3 minutes, come back. I can't find the keys. I said, okay. So at that point, I get the boys and I move them out the house because I didn't want them to go into the house and start tearing up these people's houses because there'd never be a hole in the situation. So we walk outside by the car. One of the guys that was in the house with us, he was on the phone with a girl, and the girl told him that Nolan's keys were on top of this Jax guy's Xbox in the house because apparently she was there with him earlier. So he goes back up to the door by himself, and 5 minutes later, the keys come out. So now I feel like you done lied to me. So now I'm really like in distress with you. But as far as their night goes, if I knew anyone who had a boat, I would have went out that night looking for my son. We tried, but I don't have friends with boats. But if I knew someone with one, I would have went out that night. And it so happened that his coach saw all the stuff on Facebook that next morning and called and contacted me like 5 in the morning, asked me did we want to go out. And I told him yes. So within an hour, he was at the dock. We met him, and we went out. We docked the boat, got out the boat, walked on the island, walked a pretty nice stretch, came back, got back on the boat, went around the island, looked, came back around, and where we went to, that's where apparently they say that his body floated up. I don't know a lot about water currents over there, but I would think that we would have saw his body.
Mm-hmm.
And on the trip there was a family that stayed a night on the island, like actually tented out on the island. So if he was left, he would have saw that family on the island, and it was 2 other boats docked, so he would have had help. So I don't know. I think we stayed there for like an hour and a half. That's when Jackson County and the sheriff department showed up, and they were going to do their rounds. And I had a classmate of mine, him and his 2 boys, they came out and they searched, and then they got back in touch with me and said the Coast Guard had finally showed up in airplanes. So
what is so critical, what Elmore is saying is they went out on Sunday, and the tide, if it brought his body up, he went missing on July 4th, as they say. His body should have been there on July 5th. Why would it not appear to July 6th? And that's one of those things that's just not adding up. And the fact that if he stayed behind on the island, there were boats there, there were people, somebody had to see something. That's why it's not adding up. And that's what they're saying. It's just not adding up.
yes.
And if he was there 2 days, somebody on the island would be able to verify that. 2 days, and nobody's come forward and say, no, he was with us, or no, we saw him. It just does not make sense. Make it make sense.
Just one last thing. We want her to talk about the cell phone deleted messages. I'm sorry. I thought my voice was loud enough. One last thing, we want to have Christine talk about the cell phone from her perspective before they tell you who Nolan was, and then we'll take your questions.
So when we made it home, my sister and I actually went through Nolan's cell phone, particularly Snapchat, because that is so popular with the children. And when we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed, hey Ma, come on, take a picture of me. You know, like he just, that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts. But I do want to say this. I would hope that any parent who, God forbid, would be in our situation, I would hope that you would do the same thing. I would hope that you would ask for any help, receive any help to get answers, because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing. And we are so grateful to everyone, family, friends, classmates, United Cajun Navy, everybody that's assisted us. We appreciate you. There's not enough thank yous that we could say or give to you, but I just, we just want to know. We want an honest, thorough investigation. That's all we're asking for.
Do you want to say about who Nolan was, and then talk about that?
Nolan is a person with a big heart. He's loved by not just his family, but the community. He's a born people person. He really developed a bond with his baby brother, because both of them play the same position. So he was really understanding the business side of the sport, which is football, and understanding that it's not just a game you playing. So the stuff that I was telling him, it was kind of starting to sink into him, and he was really getting more in depth into it. And I could see as he did that, his baby brother really started getting more into it as well, as far as being more focused, because he saw, well, if my big brother is about to go do this great thing, then I want to do this great thing, but I want to do it better. That's why that's what made them so like vinegar and oil. It was like they was always at each other, but they were the same. When I look at my youngest, I'll say Nolan, or when I look at Nolan, I'll say my youngest name. So they would train together. I would always say, hey, you did some push-ups, you the one ran some routes. And they know when I say that, next day they're out there running routes. Even my other son, he'll go out there. He doesn't play that position, but he will go out there and work and exercise and work out, because they were understanding what I was talking about. They were growing. They were becoming men. So this was his time. He would always talk to me. I would always give him my advice about stuff. I always try to tell him what to look for. And I was always telling him, I said, son, I'm giving you this advice, and I'm telling you this stuff, but you're going to have to experience this. But when you experience it, it won't be foreign to you. You'll have some kind of idea of how to navigate through it. And I think me and his mother, I think we did a great job with that. That's why it's so hard for me to believe that he would choose to stay on the island. It just wasn't his character. It wasn't his character. So Nolan is the funniest kid in our family. Speaking of the time she was talking about, yeah, we were having a kind of heated moment, and I don't know if you guys remember the little dance called Stanky Leg. I think my son created it because we were sitting in that closet looking and just like talking. He literally came to the closet door like and peeked around and stood in front of him and just started doing this little crazy dance. And I was like, we just bust out like whatever we was arguing about, we stopped laughing. Then we called him to us and we just hugged and laughed and played. But then maybe 6 months later, the song is a hit. But we always said he created the Stanky Leg dance. But that's my greatest memory of my
What
son.
are you telling your other children about this?
My son Ethan, he's hurting. These are the ones these are the younger ones. He's like, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm like, son, you gotta keep going, cause he would want you to be better. His youngest brother Elmore, the one that really worked out with him, he was like, I'm hurting, Dad, but I said, Nolan wants you to be the best he can be. He would want you to outdo him, and whenever you feel like you're in a bind or having some kind of problem, call on your brother, talk to your brother. My twins, the loss of a younger sibling is hurting them. They have to figure out how to navigate through life without him. And my daughter Carly, with her being away, it's really hard for her because she's not around family now. So she's out on her own, doing life like does. But she's doing it on her own, so she has to do this by herself. We're here, by phone, but we're not there in person. So she really has to draw on the people that surround her when she's not home. So all together, my family, this is gonna be our new norm. He was the jester in my court, and.
You've been following this case since the moment Nolan Wells didn't come home. Today, for the first time, his parents sat down and spoke. And what they said isn't just a grieving family talking about loss. It's a family laying out, piece by piece, why they don't believe the story they've been given. Christine and Elmore Wansley sat across from Michael Strachan on Good Morning America this morning, their attorney Ben Crump beside them. Hours later, they stood in Harlem alongside Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton, calling for something they say they haven't gotten yet. Transparency. Let's go through what they actually said, because there's a lot here that hasn't been part of the conversation until today. Christine Wansley told Strachan something simple, but it's the detail that unraveled everything for her. Nolan always checked in. Every time he went out, every time he was somewhere without her, he called or texted. That day, nothing. No call, no text, no check-in. She said that silence was the first thing that told her something was wrong, long before anyone used the word missing. Elmore Wansley talked about the rule he'd given his son his whole life. If you go with a group, you come back with the group. If you go with 5 people, you come back with 5. He said Nolan always followed that rule, always said yes, sir, when it came up. So when he heard that Nolan had supposedly stayed behind on that island alone, his response was direct. That's not who his son was. When asked point blank if he believed Nolan had been left behind, he didn't hesitate. Yes, he said it doesn't fit his son's character to make that choice on his own. That's not investigators talking. That's not Crump talking. That's his father, drawing on 18 years of knowing exactly how his son operated in a group.
And I just want to ask you, the friends that Nolan traveled to Horn Island with, they say that he stayed behind voluntarily. Why would he stay behind?
That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would.
I don't know why he would. we always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Even when he was in college, he would say, Dad, well, we're gonna ride down to a party or something in another city. Now, so I was out telling him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from your group. So I always said, safety is in numbers. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that would have been unusual for him to split from the group. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
So that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat. And usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's, I think, since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends. And so it would always just be like, hey, Mom, I'm back, type of thing. But this time there was no call or text from him. It was from his friend.
And then too, really didn't worry a lot about it because, it was his last weekend to have fun. Because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last little hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about football, not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, and you have to understand, and you have to understand both at the same time.
And we know, Ben, that you said that you're going to do an independent investigation.
Yes.
And you say you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they tracked this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Tashima and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her 2 sons, Jalen and Javon, they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. I'm not. He's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Tashima went and picked it up.
It wasn't like they said we got his phone. They tracked it, and that highlights all these contradictions, Michael. The fact that they said Nolan was talking to a young woman, and she said that he said, I'm going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys said that he said he was going to stay with her. And so that's an obvious contradiction. And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing? And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe their story, I'm going to stay behind and I'm going to leave my phone. I mean, no young person leaves their cell phone. And so then there's so many things their parents were telling us about. Even why didn't his body wash up with the tide on Sunday? Why would it come on Monday? It's not adding up. And that is the problem when you think about the history of Mississippi.
Here's something that hadn't been part of the public story until this morning. Christine Wansley said that when Nolan's phone was retrieved from one of the friends who returned from the island, she expected to find exactly what you'd expect from a group of teenagers on a holiday weekend. Photos, videos, Snapchats. Nolan, she said, was someone who documented everything when he was having fun. There was nothing. No saved videos, no photos from that day. She said even her own sister, looking at the same phone, immediately called it suspicious. Christine's theory is that Snapchat messages had already disappeared by the time they got the phone back, since those messages typically vanish after 24 hours if no one saves them, and it hadn't even been a full day since Nolan went missing. To be clear, this is the family's account of what they found, not a forensic conclusion. Crump has said his team is now having the phone independently analyzed. That analysis hasn't been completed or released. The video nobody can explain. This is the piece of the story that's driven the most attention, and it's worth being precise about what is and isn't confirmed. A video has been circulating online, filmed from a boat near the island's shore, showing a group of people on the beach with what sounds like an argument in the background. In that audio, a voice can reportedly be heard saying, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing?" Crump referenced this video directly at the press conference. He said, independent investigators are now trying to determine whether that voice belongs to Nolan. As of today, authorities have not confirmed the video is authentic, connected to this case, or that the voice is Nolan's. That verification is still pending, but it's clearly one of the central threads Crump's team is pulling on. At the Harlem press conference, Crump didn't soften why his team is running a parallel, independent investigation. He said plainly that this comes down to trust. A black teenager ended up dead after a boat trip with 3 young white men in Mississippi, and Crump said that context isn't abstract for this family. It's lived history. That's why the family wanted an independent autopsy performed by a pathologist with no connection to Mississippi law enforcement. That autopsy was conducted in Washington, D.C. after Nolan's body was flown there. Former NFL player Colin Kaepernick helped fund that independent autopsy. Separately, Crump said actor and producer Tyler Perry is covering funeral costs for the family. Local investigators had reportedly suggested the working theory that Nolan drowned. Crump pushed back hard on that framing today. He pointed out that Nolan was a multi-sport athlete in peak physical condition, someone who knew how to swim well. He called the drowning theory on its own a set of contradictions the family isn't prepared to simply accept and move on from. To be fair to the other side of this, Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter has said Nolan's friends have been cooperating with the official investigation, and a judge from the community, whose own son was among the group that day, publicly voiced support for the Wells family while noting her long personal relationship with Christine. This isn't a story where every voice is aligned against the family. It's a story where the family and their legal team are saying the current answers don't add up, while local law enforcement says the investigation, including cooperation from the other teens, is ongoing. At the press conference, Sharpton didn't hedge. He said the situation demands the most thorough and objective investigation possible to reach justice, and that what the family has been told simply does not make sense. He said, given the lack of confidence in local authorities, something does not smell right about how this has been handled so far. Crump followed that by making the family's central demand explicit. They want every fact about what happened to Nolan brought into the light. They want the investigation pursued with urgency and transparency. Those are his words, not a summary. He said the family will not rest until that happens. In the middle of all of this, both parents took time to talk about who their son actually was. And it's worth including, because it's part of why this case has resonated the way it has. Christine described a moment from Nolan's school years. A classroom had a special needs student, and when that student was called on to answer a question, Nolan told his classmates to put their hands down so she could answer without feeling rushed or overshadowed. When she got it right, Christine said the whole class erupted, celebrating her, and it was Nolan who started it. She said all the best parts of herself, she believes, live on in him. Elmore talked about the trip itself. He said, this 4th of July weekend was supposed to be Nolan's last chance to relax before locking back in for football season. Nolan was heading back to Southwest Mississippi Community College that Monday to start camp. Instead, his parents were preparing for a funeral, not a football season. Here's the honest picture. As of today, Nolan Wells disappeared on Horn Island on July 4th and was found dead there 2 days later. A state autopsy has been completed, but officials have not released a cause or manner of death, though a drowning theory has reportedly been floated by investigators. The Wells family disputes that theory and is pursuing an independent autopsy completed in Washington, D.C., with funding help from Colin Kaepernick. There is a video, unverified, that may contain Nolan's voice in an argument about a phone. There are deleted messages the family believes are suspicious, though that hasn't been forensically confirmed. There is a sheriff's department saying the other teens are cooperating, and a family that says trust in the local investigation has already been damaged. None of that is closed. None of that is settled. What is settled is this. Today, for the first time, Nolan's parents sat in front of cameras and told the world exactly what doesn't add up to them, in their own words, without anyone else speaking for them. Crump has said his team's independent investigation is ongoing, alongside the official one. Results from the independent autopsy were expected around the same time as today's press conference. Whether those results confirm, contradict, or complicate the drowning theory is still unknown as of this script. What's clear is that this case isn't slowing down, and neither is the family's push for answers. If more comes out, whether it's autopsy results, phone analysis, or new witness statements, we'll be covering it as soon as it's confirmed. If you want to stay on top of every update in this case as it happens, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We'll keep bringing you what's actually confirmed as it comes.